Hi, we're back for the last series of short videos on how refracs can help make America's old oil and gas wells great again. You never get tired of it. But at any rate, I've just come back from two conferences over the last 2 weeks, one dedicated to refracs and one where we talked a lot about refracs. And the more I talk at these and the more I hear what's going on in the refrac world, the more I'm convinced that we're on the right track here with our four-step approach. And realistically, it's not being followed. I mean, a major study of refrac effectiveness in the Eagle Ford I saw by a major service company that actually has wireline log analysts on staff basically didn't even include the reservoir in the optimization study they did. I mean, it was like, the refrac candidate selection didn't involve the remaining reserves there and the like in comparison to recovery factors, and which we think is really pretty basic. We think that's the most important part of it, is identifying what's there, not trying to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. You've got to have a prize there to start with, and it's got to be there for a reason. Whatever was done earlier wasn't the optimum way to do it, and it left a lot of reserves behind. But so the more I'm convinced, the more I hear, the more I'm convinced that this is the right approach. The majority of the papers that were there didn't really talk about reservoir that much. It was they talk more about the mechanical aspects, but then you look at the production results in a lot of refracs, and it's very erratic, particularly in the shales. And this is mostly in the shales. There really wasn't much presented on the vertical well refracs, but I think that's the biggest opportunity out there. Shale wells, I think you're going to have a problem in that you need to have protection fracs put on parent wells, and that's the major reason most operators are doing it. In fact, I talked to 4 major Eagle Ford operators, and that's the only reason they were doing refracs, was to protect the parent well from child well frac hits, which are detrimental in the Eagle Ford. Not so much in some of the other formations out there, like Barnett, Bakken, places like that. You actually have positive results from frac hits, so that's another topic altogether. But by and large, I think the 4-step approach is a valid way to go. That get the right team in place, get the right disciplines. You don't see that happening all the time. It's mostly the frac side that talks about it, not so much the G&G side that's given these papers and designing these programs. Make sure you determine the size of the prize. Again, don't try to make something out that's not there. Determine why it's there so you don't repeat those mistakes, and then do it right. And in the shales, I think you're going to have to put a combination of old perps and new perps together, and use some kind of intra-stage diversion. Some of the liners coming out in the shales are exciting. The conventional expandables are always there. Those are probably the most positive way of diverting. However, some of these advances with the flush joint liners inside of other liners are promising, especially these external packers that are coming out that can separate the stages behind the pipe, which wasn't available, even though some operators like Devon and the Barnett have been going without the isolation on the backside, just with flush joint. I think in most areas, some type of isolation would be preferred to control the diversion, so the diversion doesn't go all the way up and down the wellbore. But in the gas well world, I think it's a tremendous opportunity there, particularly tight gas, 0.02, 0.03 millit RC rock, where you've got big problems fracking these with water, and also big problems trying to frack multiple stages and multiple clusters in single stages. And there's a lot of low-hanging fruit out there, but the problem is a lot of areas you can't really use water-based fluids on refracs, whereas they would work, quote unquote, work meaning 10% of your effective, or your prop frac length is effectively producing. You call that working. I don't call that working, but most people seem to. Going with a less damaging fluid, like some kind of hydrocarbon-based fluid, like we're looking at for some of our dry gas projects. But and just in general, multiple cluster stages are going to be problematic, in that you've got one of the stages, one of the zones is going to have the same length as if it was by itself, and the rest of them are going to have skin removal. So there's a lot of remaining gas and oil in place in some of these particularly in these multiple zone environments. But at any rate, hopefully this series has been helpful, and that it'll help you make better wells, better refracs, get more consistent results, because that to me is the big prize, if you can start booking behind pipe reserves with consistent results. And we're not seeing that out there, but then again, I think if you follow this 4-step process, your probability of getting that's a lot higher than it is if you just try to do what everybody else is doing, which seems to be what the gist of a lot of these conferences is. If you're interested in hearing more about this, we have an upcoming seminar, a 2-day seminar on this in Houston, May 4th and 5th at Subsurface Consultants and Associates. And the link should be on the email here for that, or it's on our website, the integratedenergyservices.com website. But and again, let me know if you have any questions on any of this series. It's been fun doing it, and hopefully we'll see you in the session.